Hi, everybody who's just coming on. We're going to get started at the hour, but you can use this as a sound check. Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar, providing a kind of a user's guide to BISG. I'm Brian O'Leary, Executive Director of the Book Industry Study Group. I see a number of folks who are new to BISG in the participants list, but I also see some more familiar names. Welcome back for the folks who are at least a little bit more familiar with us. Well, this tour, which is going to be largely a tour of our website on the resources that are available through it, is intended to introduce those resources to people that are less familiar with BISG. It might also be useful for those folks who know BISG but have not spent as much time either on the site or looking up information there. We're going to cover 5 primary areas, which are BISAC, our standard, committees and working groups, the value of creating a user profile, events, and our knowledge center. And I'm going to leave question time at the end as well. So if you have them, please put your questions in the Q&A box. We'll be able to pick those up, and I'll answer anything that you have questions on. As I said, we're going to talk about BISAC, so let me start with that. So it's on the far left-hand side, and you see when you look at the drop-down that there are several different categories. The drop-down menu gives you direct access to the code list, which is this first section, merchandising themes, the regional themes, FAQs here, and also the option to purchase or download if you're a non-member, download if you're a member. But I'm going to actually click on the BISAC itself, which brings you to a page that is kind of not listed on that drop down. The function of this, the way this website is designed, if you click on any of the top level navs, you come to a page that's not in the drop down menu. It gives you some background on committees, on BISAC, et cetera. So I'm just coming back to BISAC. In addition, this kind of either hidden or background page provides an appendix of inactivated codes, which summarizes all of the codes throughout the history of the code list that are no longer in use and what codes we recommend to use in their place. It also includes a page, the subject code updates from the 2023 edition. The current edition is 2024, released in December of last year. Every year we publish an update that shows all of the changes year over year in the code list. And that can be really useful if you're trying to figure out whatever happened to or what was added this year that is new to the themes. There's another way also to know what's new to the themes that I'll show you in a moment. The one thing to show here, we'll just go to the full code list. If you click on that first in that heading, you'll see the listing of the 53 different categories that make up BISAC. There are more than 5,700 codes, so on average more than 100. Some categories are bigger than others. There is no cost to reviewing, selecting, and applying a code or a set of codes to describe a book. We do charge non-members to download a copy of the full list. That's a license for that edition. However, you always have free access to this page. And if you click on, we'll pick a simpler category like antiques and collectibles. You have full access to here. You see the note that an asterisk after the heading, the subject code heading, indicates that it's new this year. I don't think antiques and collectibles got anything new last year. But this is all the codes that are available. A number of folks who actually have access to the full code list through their title management systems sometimes come here so that they can look at the full code list without looking at a flat list. This gives you the ability to kind of see the full range of codes that you might consider or select. And then you can pick, we recommend up to 3, but it's a free resource that you're always welcome to use. Our committees, actually, we have 5 standing committees, and participation is typically limited to paid members of the Book Industry Study Group. The topic areas, as you see here, are metadata rights, subject codes, which is the BISAC Codes Committee, supply chain, and workflow. We're also currently supporting 10 working groups. You can see the topics here. The working groups themselves report to one of the 5 committees, and they're typically formed for a period of time to work on a very specific project. Some of what we're currently working on will wrap up this year. Other things will probably continue into 2026, whereas the committees here, these 5 are standing. They persist year over year. I'm just going to click on accessibility to give you a sense of both the description. So this is the charter, what we call the charter. It's a description of the work of the working group, and it's broken into components. The current situation, meaning why is accessibility an issue for the industry? We also, and we talk here in subsections about the European Accessibility Act, which went into effect at the end of June, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, which we have an update next spring. The second section are objectives. What is it that the working group or committee, and if we're looking at the committee structure, is trying to accomplish? How does it benefit the industry? What specific deliverables can you expect to see in 2025 through this working group? And then things that might get in the way, what we call blockers. Some of these descriptions in the working group include a section on resources. I'm just going to click on that for a moment. And what we've done is take, through the work of the working group, suggestions on, in some cases, the content that's been developed by the accessibility working group. And I'm just going to scroll through it quickly, but also additional resources recommended by members of the working group, things like access to the W3C standards overview or an introduction to board accessible ebook production. There are a number of different contributors to this. So there are websites that we recommend people start with: articles and blog posts, reports and papers, webinars, and websites. Our operations manager, Brooke Horn, has been working diligently to fill out these kinds of resource pages for most of our metadata, most of our committee and working group efforts. They're not all done. They take a while to both collect the information and format. But you'll see here at the top, if you have something that you would like us to consider, you can click on this link and submit that. And if you have a resource that you love, but we're not featuring it, add it. You can add it bring it to our attention through the suggestion form so that we can add it. So a couple different ways to participate. And that's again, not, you don't have to be a member to be able to do that. We're looking to make this a resource for the community. It is the case that working groups are generally open to participation from non-members who are subject matter experts in their area. And if you feel like we're working on I'll just come back to the list of, if any one of these topics is something that you feel like you have a real perspective on and want to contribute, reach out to us. info@bisg.org is a good email. It goes to all 3 staff members, including me and Brooke, and as well as Liz Bartek, who is our marketing and communications manager. And it's a good way to get engaged with BISG. I'm going to come back to committees. And I want to show the rights committee just as an example. It's useful to know that the structure of all of our committee pages follows a similar template, but we're just going to show you a variety of ways. I'm navigating down to just below the summary here to say what there's a little bit about the rights committee. And then each of the committee pages shows the current chair, in this case, Chris Kleeman of Kleeman and Company, who's been running the rights committee for several years. And there's, in this case, there are 5 different links that you can join this committee, which would allow you to send us a note directly to ask to be added to the committee. There's a way to also to do that on your own through your profile that I'll show you in a few minutes. The committee charter, I'm just going to click on it for a moment, is actually a really useful document. I showed you the accessibility working group charter. This is a similar document, but in the area of rights. So you're going to see comparable headings, but different language, because obviously the committee is working on different things for different purposes. And in these cases, we also have a timeline, which tells you roughly meeting by meeting throughout the year. Committees meet every month in the 3rd full week of each month, but what the committee will be working on and what they might be thinking about. Find a rights holder here is a unique tool that we developed and launched earlier this year. It's the ability to look up an imprint. If you're working for a publisher and you are working particularly with authors who might have to seek rights and permissions for copyrighted material that they're using in a book, this is a good way to find out who to contact. I'm just going to use my an imprint alert, which is a Random House imprint owned by Penguin Random House. But this gives you the ability to contact a person or to write an email to them directly. And this is also something where if you have an imprint that's not shown here and you want to suggest it, you can. As I said, we introduced it earlier this year. We're pretty happy with the uptake so far. Doing Rights Right is a link to an event that we're having in January. The Rights Committee holds every January a meeting that deals with current topics and rights. And then this last piece is another example of the kind of work that Brooke has been doing to develop rights professionals pages. Here it's both BISG content as well and kind of organized, as well as additional resources, things like books and web resources and subscriptions that we find valuable, blogs and newsletters, books, courses and training, and podcasts, as well as websites that are not our own. And it's a variety of different things that you can use to become smarter. We're actually filling in each of these for our committees, and they're not all done. But if you have an interest, definitely take a look at these. And again, here's the ability to ask for stuff and suggest things to add. So, one thing that I wanted to really do as well is before we move on is just show you the balance of that page. So I'm going to scroll down here, which is so I've taken you to this point where we've looked at a number of different links, but each page features the committee's objectives, which are drawn from the charter, the short summary of what we do. Most of them also include a testimonial of some sort, in this case from Claire Hodder from Right Zone, who's a member of this committee, but also works to in the UK and sells a rights management system. It includes the dates of past and upcoming meetings, a summary of what we produce. And if you click on this link, you get a complete list of all rights committee work. There is a working group. There are a couple of working groups within the rights committee, and they have different schedules. And there's a fairly extensive rights FAQ that here, it's just showing the first 3 questions, but if you click on this link, you'll find a really extensive FAQ around the same size as our BISAC frequently asked questions. And you'll see this structure repeated for each of the committees. But if you spend your time looking at any one of them, you'll get a really good sense, particularly starting with the charter, which is available through the link that's right here, and then following through to the rest of the page. Wanted to talk a little bit about the value of creating a user profile to track your BISG activity and receive relevant updates. If you already have an account, and this is mine, I'm just going to click on it, and it'll bring me to the user account that I have. Seems to be a little bit slow today, but here it is. It's what we call Member Compass, and I'm going to spend time with a couple of different things. This is my user profile. Yours obviously would be different, and it's for BISG. So if BISG is a member of BISG all the way through the end of the year, which is a happy coincidence. There's a real advantage to using to creating a user account if you don't already have one, and logging in before you either register or order a BISG product. One example is here. If I look at my events, so I have an upcoming event, Advancing Standards for Translation Rights Royalty Statements. That's a Frankfurt Book Fair event. And I can add it to my calendar here just by clicking on this icon. And there you also see, though, and this is an advantage that I think a lot of people don't know about, my past events are here. And so you can see both the ones that I signed up for, as well as the ones that I attended. And this can be really useful for you. I did attend this event. I know I was there. I just haven't been marked off. But it's a good example of if you wanted to say, well, what events have I attended? What have I am I looking for? If you're looking for a recording of a specific event and you've forgotten the title, you can always look backwards in this regard. My orders is somewhat similar. It's not forward looking, obviously, but it is backward looking. So here I think this is a downloaded a version of BISAC for a project that we were doing on. This is just telling me that I downloaded it at that point. So if you're ever looking like what did I order and when did I order it, that's all captured here. As well, if you look at profile, it's possible to update directly or add or delete committee or working group participation in this. If I scroll down a little bit, there's the basic demographic information, but there's fields for committee and working group engagement. I'm a member of all committees and working groups, so this list is much more extensive than yours might be. But you can add yourself. If I'm just going to take myself off workflow for a minute, you'll see it shows up here as potential. Now I clicked on it and added it back, and I'll save it. And that puts you on the list for folks who are now parts of that committee. So really useful to have a profile, to use the profile and be logged in when you're signing up. But it's also a way to kind of self-serve if you want to just get yourself added or deleted from a particular committee or working group. I think one thing to work on a little bit too is our events. We offer more than 30 or actually sometimes more events, webinars every year. The first Tuesday of each month is dedicated to our supply chain lunch and learn webinar, and we have at least one and sometimes 2 other topical webinars scheduled in the month. To find out what's coming up, you can look at the full calendar. So you go to the events menu, click on calendar, and you'll see everything that's scheduled Some events are still in development, so if you don't see something, you can always reach out and ask us. You have to note that the calendar view is effectively everything. So including committee and working group calls. And we host 110 committee and working group calls every year, so they can overwhelm you when you're looking for a webinar or an in-person event. To filter, you can go to this category drop-down to sort for the kind of event that you're looking for. So I'll look at in-person events, and I'll scroll down a little bit. You see here are two upcoming in-person events, the Frankfurt event, Doing Rights Right. You could also look at training and education as an example, and you'll see a drop down. I'll scroll again to several Onyx training sessions, and we'll probably have a thema training session added shortly in February, so that this runs into the middle of next year. And just to give you one more look, well, you can look at the supply chain lunch and learn series. This is an interesting example because we have this webinar every month. So the August 5th will be the next first Tuesday. We haven't shown September through December because we decide and plan the topics coming out of committee pretty much a month ahead of time. So it's we definitely will be offering those lunch and learns. However, we haven't picked the final topic. We try to make them as current as possible. So, want to talk a little bit about Knowledge Center, which is on the far right of the main menu. This is the landing page. It shows the 5 most recent videos plus the 5 most recent documents. Videos update more frequently because we're doing webinars every 2 weeks in effect. So you'll see more current webinars and videos than you will see documents, whereas the documents change somewhat more slowly. If you go to, but this landing page is useful in getting an understanding of what's new. So rethinking print sourcing strategies for changing industry was the webinar that Shona Burns hosted at the beginning of July. So at the top of Knowledge Center, if you go to all resources, you get literally all resources here. It's sorted alphabetically. You can look by topic. The topics are typically our committee structure, so metadata rights, etc. We've also added EUDR, annual meeting, accessibility, because those are topics that are particularly in demand right now. One example that I'll just pick, so EUDR, here you get the most current and webinars that were recorded for EUDR. This one actually goes back a year, and these ones are more current. Another example, if we do accessibility, you'll find 2 webinars that we put on for digital accessibility, one in March and one more recently, the one that's shown to the left. In June, one on the EAA and the June one on ADA. These are the webinars that were tagged accessibility. If you search for the word accessibility, which I'll do here, you'll see a much broader sense. So it's not just the 2 webinars, although those 2 webinars do show up, but also anything where in the description accessibility appears, the description or the title. And you can get a pretty good sense of the depth. So we have 170 different resources or instances in which the word appeared. You can also search for proper names. So if you're trying to think like essentially, I'm looking for a webinar that Rachel Comerford you can type in a proper name, and you'll see here there are 13 results of both webinars and documents that Rachel Comerford contributed to, because it's doing a full text search for things like the documents. It's a good way to kind of get a quick update to and access to those documents. The thing I wanted to also say is that you can search by topics which are similar to what we have in the drop-down menu. This gives you the ability, for example, if you want to look at all the videos from our annual meeting, which was held in April. This is actually historical, so it's not just 2025. but more recent and some older ones. You can also look at collections. I'm just going to look at Doing Rights Right. This is the event that was held in January 2025, the same one that we're planning to do in January 2026. But it gives you access to the 10 or 12 recorded videos for that in one place. So the entire event is in one collection. One thing that's useful to note is that the resources that are made available on the site are currently offered without charge. BISG started charging for some webinars, and these will be posted in Knowledge Center and made available to those who registered for the event, including those who paid to attend. We anticipate that we're going to make paid webinars available for subsequent sale to anyone who's interested, but we're just getting started with that. So look for an announcement this fall. Knowledge Center right now is set up to allow or restrict access at the level of a product, whether it's a PDF or a video. So as you look at various items, you're always allowed to click on them. And occasionally you may ask to be to either sign in, that's the value of having that account, or you'll be told that the access is limited to members or perhaps members of a certain group like the BISG board. But there's no penalty for looking around, and you're always welcome to do that. So I'm just going to go back to the main page, and while I do that, because I have you here, let me say a few words about how BISG helps shape standards and conversations that guide the book industry. Much of that occurs in our committees and working groups, which bring together segments of the supply chain and monthly calls about metadata rights, subject codes, supply chain and workflow. We also have those specific working group topics like accessibility, audiobooks, metadata best practices, and more. The best way to get involved is to be part of BISG. Membership gives your organization staff, all of them, no restrictions, the ability to sign up for any committee or working group, any webinar or in-person event, and to always receive free or lower cost access to the event. Participation is always included as part of any BISG membership. There are also advantages to being part of BISG that are not always apparent. Our committee and working group calls are typically collegial and educational. People share their experiences from different perspectives, making everyone smarter about their roles and the industry we work in. Members also develop relationships with other members from across the supply chain, helping to solve problems that come up between trading partners in a way that would not be possible without knowing your colleagues. And we create success by solving problems that affect two or more parts of the industry. If after this call or at any point in the future you're interested in learning more about membership, there's a section on the BISG website specifically dedicated to it. Let me just pull that up. Here there's a summary of member benefits that is kind of focused on the core takeaways. There's a separate section on how to become a member that identifies the 4 categories for membership, including commercial, nonprofit, individual, and library. And if you're interested as well, there's a member directory. The view you're going to get here is the one that I have as an admin logged in, but you see all the companies listed, and you can search for individual companies just simply by typing in the box. But these were all the current members of BISG. Last week, the board voted to add a new category for agents and to lower the cost of individual membership while simultaneously adding a restriction that will limit individual membership to people who are independent, not part of a commercial and nonprofit organization. And we'll be making an announcement on that in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to stop there for a moment and pause and see if there are questions that I can answer.
We do have questions, Brian. Firstly, an attendee has asked us briefly, how would you explain what BISG is and does to someone who's never heard of it?
Sure. So we're the supply chain organization for the book business. Our job is to solve problems that affect two or more parts of the business. Other organizations, typically AAP as an example, are focused on the needs of publishers, ABA on the needs of booksellers. But a lot of what governs the industry today, particularly these 5 subject areas, metadata rights, subject codes, supply chain, and workflow, require multi-party conversations. And we're the organization that brings those folks together. and then works on solving the problems that are in the middle.
Another question. If I'm interested in joining BISG, how can I convince my higher ups to join so that I can participate in committees?
Well, I certainly think that you should focus on the information that's included in the member benefits. Some of the things that are listed here: industry leadership, education and professional development, community and networking, as well as the things that are included like BISAC code access, member-only programming, and the like are reasonably good arguments. I think as well, it's useful to reach out to either Brooke or to me. And sometimes a customized explanation for your organization is useful. It is worth underscoring that this is not about just one individual. The best thing about BISG is there is no limit, independent of the size of your organization. Anyone who's interested in our topic areas can join. So you can have a rights person joining the rights committee, a metadata person joining the metadata committee, and et cetera. And there's no limit to that. You can have multiple people coming to the same meeting.
Great, thank you. I believe that that's it for our current Q&A. If anyone else has questions, we do have a couple more minutes of time, and you're welcome to drop those into the chat or the Q&A.
I saw that somebody just raised a hand.
I'm not seeing that.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. It's Amy Atwell. Amy, do you want to either ask a question or perhaps we can unmute you?
Amy, you have the ability to talk now if you want to unmute.
Sorry, I was just exploring the raise a hand. I was like, oh, so who raised that hand? And then I clicked it.
Well, that's more than fine. And that's
Thanks.
the level of engagement that we support at BISG. So just to wrap up, I was going to say that there are a lot of different reasons to participate, but the first and foremost is that we want to make sure that we continue to have the resources to bring these kinds of solutions to the industry. That makes it necessary for us to grow revenue, but both from membership and from sponsorship and other means, to be able to continue to do that. But our commitment is really to solve problems, not to grow membership. So our interest is really to have as many different people contributing to both identifying the problems that we have as an industry that we want to change, and also to contribute to that wherever we can. So thanks for making the time today, and I look forward
Brian?
to.
We had a
Yes,
couple other questions come in if we have an extra moment.
I can certainly do that. Sure.
Of course. We had an attendee ask, how would you compare the work that committees and working groups do? What are the differences between those two structures? How do they differ
Sure.
and how do they overlap?
Yeah, committees reflect the commitment that we make to those 5 topic areas. Those are the filters through which we solve problems that affect 2 or more parts of the industry, and they're persistent. So every year the committee's charters may change, but the committees don't. So we're committed to having long-term efforts to address metadata rights, et cetera. Working groups are typically shorter term in nature, ideally within a year, sometimes even shorter than that. Sometimes they're longer. The metadata best practices work has been going on for a couple of years. But their goal is to solve a problem that is hard to do in a committee structure. It typically involves either subject matter expertise, audiobooks is an example there, or it requires more time and attention than we can dedicate in a committee meeting. So it's an additional hour in a month or or every other month or sometimes a quarter to be able to spend on that. but it's effectively working groups have a beginning, middle, and end. Committees do not.
Thank you for that answer, Brian. We also have another attendee who has asked, how is the Find a Rights Holder database updated? Are publishers regularly uploading that info whenever rights on a work change? How does that process work?
Sure. So it's not rights at the level of a work. It's rights at the level of an imprint. So it's and it effectively tells you who at that imprint you should contact for either rights or permissions. There's let me just go to the page quickly, and then we'll show you how the updates work. So there's the opportunity to suggest a new record, and if you look up a record, I'll use Blurt again just to pick up. There's the ability to sorry, it's asking me to authorize myself. But the ability here to suggest a change to this record, it will send me a code, and I'll have to enter that, and I'm not going to bore you with that. But anyone can either suggest a new record, or ask for an update on an existing record that goes into a queue that we review periodically, no more than a week at a time, and often less. And then when we go through the queue and review it, we'll either approve it, or if we have questions, we'll go back to the publisher and ask for clarification.
Great, thank you. Those were the last questions that we had. One other feature, Brian, that I think would be great to just point out quickly before we wrap up today is the BISG blog under the About section. Just to point out that we have news and updates there that are always included in our newsletter if you're not subscribed, but this is also a great way to find just other news both about BISG and about the book industry as a whole.
Sure. And there are a number of different things that we cover, sometimes to promote our own events. In this case, the most recent post is guidance from Chris Sainer, who works at Editor in the UK, on how to convey accessibility metadata. We try to be practical in the things that we put here, and it's a good resource for anyone looking for information on topics. All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, Brooke, for wrangling the questions, and thanks to everybody for attending today. If you have any questions as follow-up, as I said, info@bisg.org is a guaranteed way to get a quick answer. Thanks, and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.